Hello everyone! Today I decided to have some fun and made a game called the Tug of War. In real life, Tug of War is a game where two groups or two people pull a rope, and the one that pulls the rope further or up to a certain distance wins the game. And the rules of this game will be quite similar. We'll have two teams, A and B. They'll have each a given amount of energy points, and the rules are in each turn, each team or each player spends a whole number of energy points, and the player who spends more points scores 1 point in his direction, so pulls a certain distance in his direction, and the first player to reach 10 distance points wins the game. Here's an example. Each player starts with 100 points. Player A spends 20, player B spends 10. Player A spent more, so he scores 1 point. And here's the continuation. Now that we know the rules of the game, let's have some fun. For this game, we will be needing a console application, and in it we are going to fight the computer. We are going to create an artificial intelligence and try to beat it. So let's create a for loop to iterate throughout each level. Let's also define the number of levels that our console will have. I've got prepared 3 levels for you. At the start of each level, we want to reset the values. We want to say that the points for player A will be equal to 0. The points for player B also 0. We want the score to be 0 again, and we will also need 2 variables for each level spent for each player A and the number of points spent for player B. We will also need a bool to know when the game finishes. So we start by saying that the game is on, and we want the game to always repeat himself while the is playing is true. So it will repeat the turns. At the beginning of each turn, I want to show the score and the number of points before I take my decision. So let's say console.writeLine score is score, and I also want to see the points. Then we are expecting the player to put a number. First, we let player know that we are expecting a number, so let's write something on our screen. We want to make sure that the string that the player inserts is really a number, otherwise it will break. So let's make a do while loop, and we'll start by saying bool is number equals false. Here we try to parse the message that the player puts into the spent A variable, and this returns a boolean. So if this is true, if I can do this, then I want to exit this loop by saying that is number equals true, that the message that the player inserted is actually a number. So do this while is number, while this is not a number. And now we want to read the artificial intelligence that we are going to make value, and we want a different artificial intelligence for each level. So for each level, I want, in case we've got level 1, the number of points spent by player B will be equal to whatever the level 1A it decides to do. Break. And we want to use this at least 3 more times. One for level 2, one for level 3. Now let's create our artificial intelligence. It will be simple. So let's create this on a new class, on a different file, so it doesn't get too messy. So let's right click here, add a new class. It will be the artificial intelligence class, which will be a public class and will have public methods. We want to return an integer, so it will be an int, and it will be called level 1 artificial intelligence, and we want it to accept the number of points available of player B. For this simple, super simple artificial intelligence, we want to just generate a random number. So first we instantiate the random variable r equal new random. Now the energy spent by player B will be r next, and it will be somewhere between 0 and the number of points available, and we want to return this number. Points P. We want this class to be static because we don't need to instantiate this class every time it's called. Now let's copy paste this for the other two. And level 3. For our level 2 AI, we want something stronger. So let's think a little bit. For this artificial intelligence, we want to limit the spending to 10 points. So let's replace points P by 10, and this will generate a number between 0 and 10. And for our third AI level, we will need 2 random numbers. Again, for level 3 artificial intelligence, we want it to spend at most 10 or 11 in this case, but we want it to more often than not have 1s and 2s and 3s rather than 8s and 9s. And a way to reach it is to generate 2 numbers between 0 and 1, multiply them, and then adapt that new number to the array of values that we want. So let's generate a random number as a double, multiply by another random number, and I want it to be multiplied by 10 and increased by 1, so it generates numbers between 1 and 11, and I need it to be an integer, and we've got our level 3 completed. Need the parameter here, points P. For the next step, we want to update the results. We want to make sure that the value spent is not bigger than the points that are available. If that's the case, points spent, it will be equal to points available. The same for our player B, just in case. Then we are going to deduct the points spent to our energy points for each player, and then to see who scores. If player A spends more than player B, then score is increased by 1. Otherwise, the score is decreased by 1. And now let's check if the game ends. If the score reaches 10, then player A wins. His playing becomes false, so we step onto our next level, and we say something to the user stating that level is over and you step onto the next level. If score below -10, then player B wins. And we want to make sure to read the text when we beat level 3. Let's correct here a value. We want to start with 100 points and not 0. And that's it for today. Feel free to beat our artificial intelligence, and if you can create a stronger one, feel free to share your artificial intelligence here on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.